And I think it's important to, because I can already hear the naysayers and the people who are like, shouldn't the job go to the best person, blah, 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 blah. I can already hear that, because I know how the other side talks a lot. And I think that is inherently problematic to insinuate that Rachel wouldn't be the best person.
Absolutely.
I mean, look, we're always taking in many characteristics under advisement for all kinds of appointments, right? It's never one characteristic.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
that exactly. Yep.
I mean, the chances are that it is the exact opposite, that she's been the most qualified for a long time, but hasn't had a chance to gain access to it.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah. Right. For sure.
I mean, you got a long history of white brothers being thoroughly mediocre and ended up in high places.
And they've been appointed. Don't get me started. When people say, why do you focus on systemic racism, Trisha? You've done fine for yourself. And I said, well, you don't know how good I would have been doing if it wasn't so much systemic racism and sexism out here.
Yeah, you think I'm all high up? You should have seen me if I'd have to break through the ceiling.
That's what I'm saying. Y'all done broke my neck sitting down here. I would have been all up. Who knows what ceilings I would have got.
The best way I can describe, I found a really great way to describe systemic racism to people who don't get it. And this seems to work almost, they can never argue this point. You'll say this. I say, listen, if there is when we say systemic racism, we mean that the ideas of racism are literally baked into the legislation, and there's also still the fallout from that. You know what I mean? The fallout from what is happening. So even though Jim Crow laws may be removed, that does not mean that we're not still feeling the effects of that. So, for example, if someone's arm is broken, and then you just stop breaking their arm, that does not mean that you fixed it. Now you have to mend the arm. Then you have to do what is necessary to make the arm better so it can be as good as the other arm on the other side. It's not enough just to stop hurting the arm. You have to actually mend it and make reparations.
They didn't stop hurting it anyway. They just found some new things to do to the arm.
Exactly. So you wouldn't recognize where they're hurting.
Stop breaking it.
Right. That's crazy. I found something the other day that really spit my head. So I've been thinking about something. Here we go. So I feel like there has to be a way. I don't know that I'm the one to do it. Maybe I am the one to do it, to get a reparations program for. I started thinking about how Black people have been asking for reparations for 150 some odd years at this point. And the government keeps being like, we don't have the money. We just don't, it's just not there. We don't have it. We just don't have the money. And then all of a sudden, what we were asking for was significant reparations for not even 13% of the population. Actually, if you consider everyone over 18, it would probably be about 6% of the population. And they're like, we don't have the money. Meanwhile, they have found $1,200 for every single American over the age of 18. So what that tells me is you had the money the whole time. You just didn't want to give it to us. And then I went back and looked at
the Federal Reserve gave the banks $12 trillion, my brother. $12 trillion to do with what you want.
Right. And then I was looking at
Wall Street and the government.
And then I found out that, did you know that some slave owners got reparations?
Oh, Lord, yes. When Abe Lincoln gave the Washington, D.C. slaveholders reparations in order to let their property go free. Now, see how sick that is? You see how sick
wild. That is? When I found out that slave owners got reparations and the slaves didn't, that really wrecked me.
You see this book
this is
right
a great
here?
book, a great book by William Sandy Darity and
Sister Mullins.
Right, Sister Kristen Mullen, From Here to Equality. The book on reparations.
Exactly that story you're talking about, though, Brother Bobby the Queen.
I'm gonna write that one down. From Here to Equality.
From Here to Equality is Brother Garrity and Sister Mullins. But and it's true, you got our ADOS brothers and sisters, Sister Yvette and Brother Tone and others been pushing this issue of reparations in a very powerful way. But in the end, it's just a matter of truth and justice. We want to know what the past was. We want to know what the damage was. And we want to know what kind of response you have to the damage.
And truth be told, a paycheck or a check from the government doesn't begin to address the number of times the arm has been broken, to extend your metaphor.
Right.
Yeah. So that would be just one tiny piece of a much bigger puzzle. Because as you said, to set that arm in place as to function as the one that was not injured, I mean, there's all kinds of healing on many, many levels, and nurturing and care, and that has to go on. Reparations in terms of the financial dimensions are almost a baseline for considering that. But it's not the answer by itself. Sometimes I worry people think that money is the answer, and I don't think that's the case.
I mean, I can't even conceive the amount of reformation we would need. Someone was describing it as a cake. Like, instead of picking up the flour, you accidentally pour the salt and you stir it in, and then you bake the cake. And now it's just baked in. Like, the salt is baked into the cake. The cake is ruined. You can't fix it. You have to start over.
Yeah.
For this to be a good cake. And that's when I think about that, like, the idea of like starting over is really scary, and it sounds really intimidating. But I wonder if that is the what needs to be done.
Yeah.
I think you're on to something very, very important.
I always said America's like a pair of like skinny jeans that like this little skinny white girl fit into, and then like you gave it to your black friend with a big ass, and she's like, these don't fit. And she's like, okay, wait, no, maybe I'll let the sides out. And then you let the sides out,
then it still don't fit.
Then they kind of fit, but it looks weird now. And then maybe we'll loosen the thigh up and add some mismatched fabric. Now it's just an ugly fucking pair of pants that you're trying hard to make it fit, and they're just fucking ugly. Just get me some new pants.
Yes,
right.
Get some new pants.
Get me some pants built up for me in the first place.
Thank you. Get pants that were made for me. So instead of trying to make me fit to your old pants, and now there's just a shitty pair of pants, I need something that looks good for me. Exactly.
Right. Well,
and then they're gonna blame it on us trying to fit into pants rather than the darn pants themselves.
Yeah,
exactly.
We need Miss Seeley's pants. Y'all remember those pants fit everybody.
Yeah.
Miss Seeley had pants that could fit Harpo and could fit Sophia.
Well, we're the original inclusionary folk. We're the original. Make them fit for everybody. But there's a lot of inspiration if you think of the cake already being baked, right? In imagining what would it take to really transform, say, treating the next generation of young people as a new cake, right?
Yeah.
You're still in the kitchen. It's not like a whole new world, but that, we have opportunities every time we have a generation of people. True. And I'm actually very inspired by young people who are politically active today in this regard. They're led primarily by women and queer people who are very outspoken about all kinds of issues, and by the sophistication of their thinking are really changing the game. I mean, I think they're trying to actually bake a new cake for sure.